Tonight, saving the planet and money.
We're going to be building 1,500 houses, and the heating for those houses will be provided from the legacy of the past.
What could a carbon zero future look like?
Cargo bikes, they're low impact, zero emission, they can get those goods out faster.
Are we ready to ditch fossil fuels?
At the moment, there's very little tax on gas, which is problematic because gas is a fossil fuel and we want to use less of it.
And could green energy save us money?
Hopefully the UK market starts moving to more and more renewable sources. The price of electricity will come down compared to the price of gas.
Good evening and welcome to the Tonight programme. This week, as world leaders gather in Glasgow, the UK is working with every nation to reach an agreement on how to tackle climate change. So are we ready for a greener future? And as energy costs continue to increase, what can we all do to save money and save the planet? Scientist and weather presenter Laura Tobin's been finding out.
Extreme weather and the death and destruction it brings around the world is a sobering reminder of the impact of climate change.
But it's 1.5 times the average February rainfall in just one day. Heat and humidity building 36.
You can go back millions of years and we've seen climate change happening naturally, but it's different this time. It's changing at a much, much faster rate than it ever has done before.
I've been a meteorologist for 20 years, and extreme weather events that I thought were impossible are now possible and becoming more likely.
In September, I travelled to the high Arctic. It's one of the most environmentally important places on the planet. But what I saw was shocking.
Right here in Svalbard, it is warming more than anywhere else on Earth, over 5 times faster. What's happening here is a warning for the rest of the world of what is to come or what could be our future if we don't start to mitigate the impacts of climate change.
If the ice disappears because the Earth is heating up, the impacts are potentially catastrophic. More violent weather and more flooding.
Storm moves in through Saturday.
Climate change is not something that will just affect our children and our grandchildren. It is here and now. We are changing the weather. These are enormous risks for very large numbers of people.
And it's why scientists believe we need to act right now. Every time we burn fossil fuels, it releases greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, raising the Earth's temperature. We've still got time to do something about it, but we are dangerously close to a point of no return.
If we want to stop the planet warming, we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to net zero so that we're not adding any more to the atmosphere.
I'm very proud that we are committed.
The UK was the first major economy in the world to pass laws setting a target to reduce emissions to net zero by 2050. But governments have been criticised for being too slow to turn promises into action.
Blah, blah, blah. This is all we hear from our so-called leaders. Words. Words that sound great, but so far has led to no action.
This week's climate conference in Glasgow has been described as the best last chance by global leaders to confront the problem and get runaway climate change under control.
The UK is hugely important at the moment because it's about getting everyone together, getting them in a room and trying to get everyone to agree to do more, do it faster and do it together.
That's the politicians and the people. A huge transformation is needed in all areas of our lives. How we heat our homes, the way we travel, and what we put in our shopping baskets.
We have to shift away from burning fossil fuels like oil and gas and coal, but we need to make sure that that's done in a way that's fair and affordable for people.
And across the UK, there does seem to be a will to try to make a difference. Seaham in County Durham was once home to 3 working coal mines. Joe worked in them until 1985, before the final pits closed.
One of the things you notice when you came into see him 3 or 4 decades ago, it would be the smell. Everything smelled of smoke. It was a very, very, I'd consider a dirty town. Everything was covered in carbon and soot and all the rest of it.
Today, things look very different here, but it's possible the town's industrial past could hold the key to a greener future. Dordon Colliery used to produce 1 million tonnes of coal a year. So where are we now?
We're standing on top of the mine shaft. The mines go down to a depth of round about 400 metres below us. The coal that was mined has long since been traded and burnt and released its carbon, but we've got the water that's come into the mines and we can use that as a source of low-carbon heat.
The floodwater is heated naturally, deep underground. That means there's a real opportunity to harness it as green energy. Previously, to stop the dirty water affecting local supplies, they started to pump it into this treatment plant.
You can see there, within a few seconds, it's starting to get clear at the top. We're treating round about a bathful of water every 2 seconds.
2,000 million litres of warm mine water passes through the plant each year. It's purified, cooled, and then pumped out to sea. But now that natural heat is going to be used to benefit hundreds of new homes locally.
We're going to be building 1,500 houses, and the heating for those houses will be provided from the legacy of the past, from the mine water.
And will the geothermal energy be enough on its own to heat all the homes?
Astonishingly, yes. In fact, it goes even further than that. It's a true legacy to the history of the hundreds of thousands of miners.
This new type of cleaner, greener heating means the homes would be low carbon and no longer reliant on fossil fuels. Bittersweet for an ex-miner like Joe.
It's an unfortunate fact of life that the coal mines have gone. If they're going to try and use it to use clean technology, it can only be a benefit to the town and certainly a benefit for the planet as well, I suppose.
With ever-increasing energy prices, projects like this could be a step in the right direction in bringing down our bills. Dr. Charlotte Adams is from the Coal Authority. They're responsible for the old mines and coming up with this pioneering plan.
The intention is that the end users would pay less than the equivalent price of gas for their heat.
Why has nobody done this before?
It's something I've been passionate about for the past 20 years, and people were telling me that back then that it was a crazy idea.
The first mine water heated homes in Seaham are due to be ready in the next 3 years. And while it's the first project of its kind in the UK, other councils are expected to follow.
If you consider that 25% of people in this country are living on top of mining areas, just think the impact that could have on us tackling climate change in this country and also getting affordable heat for people. It's just a staggering opportunity.
But you don't need to live above a mine to heat your homes with energy from the earth. There are ground source heat pumps which can be installed. They are expensive, typically upwards of £15,000, and you do need a big garden. A slightly cheaper option is an air source heat pump. They're expected to have a big role in replacing gas central heating and reducing harmful carbon emissions.
A heat pump extracts warmth from the air or from the ground and then takes that warmth and pumps it into your home. Quite a radical difference from a boiler, and at the moment the technology is very expensive.
Natalie and Tim took the plunge and bought an air source heat pump for their 1980s house in Lincolnshire when their gas boiler needed replacing.
The gas boiler used to be on the wall here. The heat pump itself is at the back of the house, so it goes up into the loft, comes back out the back of the house, down through the back of the kitchen.
The heat pump costs £13,000, including installation, but the couple is due to receive £9,000 back over 7 years under the Government Renewable Heat Incentive Scheme, which runs until April 2022.
My biggest concern was always going to be having enough hot water and being warm enough, and we've had no problems, have we? And we don't have any gas anymore.
Heat pumps, like boilers, are much more effective in a well-insulated house. Natalie and Tim found some DIY tricks to help keep their heat in.
So we put loft insulation in ourselves. It cost us around £100 for the materials.
We got these thermal insulating linings for our curtains, which obviously help keep the heat in, and they only cost about £20.
We've put thermostats in every single room, so they're all individually controlled, so we're not overheating any particular area.
So now the couple do not pay a gas bill. However, their heat pump runs on electricity, so while it's greener, it's not currently cheaper.
Our energy bill each month went from about £100 when we had a gas boiler to about £130 with the heat pump.
But they hope the investment will eventually pay off.
I like to think long term we'll benefit from it.
Hopefully the UK market starts moving to more and more renewable sources. The price of electricity will come down compared to the price of gas.
According to experts, Natalie and Tim may be on the right track.
Investing in a heat pump is probably a really good idea, especially if you combine it with making your home really energy efficient, because gas will get more expensive and we expect electricity to become cheaper as more renewables come on the grid.
The UK has some of the most expensive electricity, but cheapest gas in all of Europe. The government is reportedly considering making greener energy more affordable by shifting taxes from electricity onto gas.
At the moment, there's very little tax on gas, which is problematic because gas is a fossil fuel and we want to use less of it. So over time, we need to change that.
Sweden was one of the first places in the world to introduce a carbon tax 30 years ago to encourage a move away from fossil fuels. And today, 43% of their homes have a heat pump.
The heat pumps seem to be an appealing alternative. It was a clean and convenient solution.
I think that cost is something that is really off-putting to people in the UK because the cost seems so high.
In Sweden, this is a little bit different situation because we have a relatively low electricity price. This is due to relatively low taxes on electricity and high carbon taxes. We have a mature heat pump industry. They have produced this type of product for a long time.
There must be many lessons that we can learn from you.
It's a well-proven technology that keeps a lot of homes warm in Europe.
Most homes in Sweden were already built airtight and energy efficient to cope with the very cold winters. Unfortunately, our housing stock is known for being very old and poorly insulated.
What we're not going to be doing is knocking down all of these old buildings to replace them with brand new buildings. We're going to have to retrofit them and make sure that they are energy efficient.
Heat pumps are expensive, and we currently have the lowest sales of them in Europe. The government is hoping that will change and have now offered some incentives. Ahead of the COP26 summit, they announced £450 million of funding to offer grants for homeowners replacing their boilers. But this equates to 90,000 heat pumps, which is only a fraction of their target to fix 600,000 annually by 2028.
The government's offering up to £5,000, but it expects consumers to fund the rest of that. The government is going to need to look at other ways to make sure that the poorest in the UK aren't left behind with increasingly inefficient and more expensive homes.
The local government association that represents councils in England and Wales said that by 2030, over 1,000 homes a day could be retrofitted with low-carbon measures, reducing household energy bills by nearly £700 million. The government is investing £26 billion to fund a green industrial revolution, and is also exploring other ways to decarbonise our homes. One hotly debated contender is hydrogen.
The great thing about hydrogen is it doesn't produce any carbon when it's burnt, so it only produces water vapour.
As we've seen, the gas that we use in our homes today is a big contributor to climate change due to the carbon it gives off when it's burnt. Fossil fuel companies are, of course, looking for their purpose and new business in a greener world, and as gas boilers are phased out, they're eager to see if hydrogen could be used as a replacement.
There's been billions and billions of pounds of investment into the gas grid over the years, and we wouldn't want to just abandon those pipes. What we can do is repurpose them.
These two specifically built homes in Gateshead received government funding to demonstrate how one day we could have boilers and appliances that run entirely on hydrogen.
The manufacturers now are ready to make what we call hydrogen-ready boilers. They run on natural gas, and when we come to do a conversion to hydrogen, we simply come along with an engineer and change a few parts in the boiler.
But there are challenges to this becoming a reality. The process of making hydrogen in a green way requires a lot of electricity. In fact, powering a house with hydrogen can use around 5 times as much electricity as a heat pump.
We shouldn't be using hydrogen where we don't need to. The best places to use it are for places where you can't use electricity because it's fundamentally less efficient.
To have zero carbon hydrogen, the technology is not there yet. We're years, if not decades, away from that being a mass scaled up solution.
Hydrogen is expected to have an important role for some industries, but producing it in a green way for the domestic market is currently very expensive.
There's not that much hydrogen production in the UK at the moment. Once we start mass producing hydrogen, the costs will tumble down.
To try to help hydrogen production get off the ground, energy regulator Ofgem is funding a trial in this Gateshead town, where a small amount is being blended into the gas network.
There are approximately 680 customers who are getting a 20% blend of hydrogen into their gas feed. As we speak, it's 7% decarbonisation, which some people might say is not a great deal. It's a stepping stone, and then we move to 100% later on.
The trial runs until next summer, and so far the homeowners have reported no issues with running their heating and appliances as normal. Meanwhile, as we ramp up the efforts to tackle climate change, we not only need to see big changes in our homes, but also the way we travel. Car journeys have collectively become the worst offender for greenhouse gas emissions on UK roads, and it's tough to turn back the tide.
We drive too much. Ultimately, we have planned our society around the car for the last 50 years, but we need to reverse that trend.
Bristol was the first UK city to declare a climate emergency in 2019, and the council set out a plan to reach net zero by 2030. That's 3 times faster than the government's 2050 goal. Road transport accounts for around 1/3 of direct carbon emissions in the area.
We still have a huge way to go to reach net zero by 2030. Something like a 60% reduction in the amount of driving is required across our city, which is an absolutely huge task.
While electric cars are becoming more popular, they come with a higher price tag. Over the next 5 years, they're expected to become as cheap as petrol and diesel models, and with lower running costs, over a car's lifespan, they could save you around £1,500. But the best thing we can all do for the planet and for our pockets is simply choosing to drive less.
Of course, there are huge benefits from getting rid of your car altogether. So if you've got a bicycle or you can walk, fantastic. That's the ultimate money saver. The issue is it's not a reality for a lot of people.
The government has promised to invest £2 billion to deliver a world-class walking and cycling network, which aims to make half of all journeys in towns and cities carless by 2030.
Ultimately, we need fewer vehicles on our streets to enable people to walk and cycle. The biggest barrier for people is that fear of motor traffic, and ultimately we need to remove that threat.
We all saw a snapshot during lockdown of how our world could look with quieter roads. But now the traffic is back, and a boom in home deliveries has seen van sales soar to a record high.
Deliveries in cities are a complete nightmare for pretty much everyone. It can be up to 50% of the cost of the delivery. That's vans and trucks getting stuck and caught up in congestion and traffic.
Rob King runs a zero-emission delivery company, and he believes the solution lies in pedal power.
Cargo bikes could provide a really essential role in decarbonising our cities. They're low impact, zero emission. Typically, they can do twice as many deliveries as an ordinary van.
Zedify is one of a number of companies using cargo bikes across the UK to keep big polluting vehicles away from city centres. They recently received a £100,000 grant from Bristol City Council to open a new hub.
Our micro-hubs act as gateways for deliveries coming into and out of a city, so that means that large vans and trucks can drop off at those hubs and then they don't have to do the city bit.
Research shows that over 50% of the deliveries in cities across Europe have the potential to be made in this way. But what about the heavy goods vehicles that we rely on to transport things in between our cities?
HGVs are a massive greenhouse gas problem. In the HGV sector, CO2 emissions are still rising.
The government has plans to ban the production of any new diesel trucks by 2040.
Fundamentally, this is a truck like any other truck.
And British HGV firm Teva is one of the companies at the forefront of finding alternatives.
The vehicle that's behind me now will be certainly one of the very first heavy goods vehicles that is truly zero emission, available in mass production.
At a time of rising fuel prices, according to David, the running cost of an electric HGV can be around 30 pence per mile cheaper than its diesel counterpart. This truck can now cover a range of up to 160 miles on battery alone, and to double that distance to more like 300 miles, the company is also using hydrogen.
Having a blend of hydrogen and battery on the vehicle gives us the opportunity essentially to follow whichever progress goes more quickly. If hydrogen becomes much cheaper, much more quickly, we can add the hydrogen. If batteries become much cheaper, much lighter, much more energy dense, we can add more batteries.
From 2023, there are plans to start manufacturing 3,000 electric hydrogen trucks every year. So some industries and agencies appear to be doing their bit. And of course, huge changes still need to be made at national government level if we want to protect the future of our planet. But as individuals, we can still make a difference. And that means our day-to-day decisions and how we live our lives matters more than ever.
Because we are causing climate change, we have control about what happens next. Every action matters. Every choice that someone makes to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions will prevent things getting worse.
What does it really look like for a company to be?
Professor Mike Berners-Lee is a leading authority on carbon counting.
If people want to reduce their carbon footprint, what is the most impactful thing that we can do?
Well, I think one of the easiest things we can do is change the way we do food. We need to cut our meat and dairy by a lot. We need to eat all the food that we buy. Travel is all about driving less, driving cleaner cars, and only flying for really good reasons. Home energy is all about home efficiency, and some of that is really cheap, easy things like turning the lights off when you leave a room. And then the stuff that we buy, it's all about buying less stuff. When we do buy things, buy high quality things, look after them, get them mended, buy second-hand, sell them on second-hand.
So we as individuals actually can make a really big difference.
Yeah, and you know, overall, the lifestyle that we can have in the low-carbon world can be better for all of us. There are so many opportunities for us if we get it right.
The net zero world is a very attractive world, actually. That's not just saving the planet. This is a world that means that our health should be better, that our streets should be quieter, that our air should be cleaner, our energy prices should be more predictable.
As we await news from the COP26 Climate Change Summit in Glasgow on what our leaders will do, it is clearer than ever before that now is the time for us all to act, to protect our planet and create a world that we all want to live in, for us and for future generations.
That's it for tonight's programme. If you want to continue the conversation, please join in using our hashtag ITVTonight on Twitter, as well as visiting our Facebook and Instagram pages and our website, of course, itv.com/tonight. Until next time, good evening and thanks for watching.